So this is who I am, but this is what I do. One of the things that you've been talking about throughout this is how to scale. And so this is sort of creds. What I've done that has really achieved scale. So for the last 10 years, coming out of my own depression, feeling like many change makers feel that nothing truly changes, and I have no business telling people, we're going to change the world like this, or we're going to change the world like that. And I'm only selling stories and nothing truly changes. And I went into depression. And out of that came the thought that, okay, I was still 40 at that time, and I was like, I'm still going to have to do something, even if I'm going to fail. So what am I willing to do, even if I'm guaranteed to fail? And from that came the idea of solving for mental health, because I was also going through depression, but I think it sustained for 10 years, so it must have been something more than that. So many iterations later, we've helped 11 million people even before, GPT and the like came in, using an AI chatbot that delivered therapeutic support. We've been used globally. We have over 40 peer-reviewed papers, lots of credentials. We've sort of established how AI can be used safely, again in a pre-GPT era, then reinvented the whole thing for low-resource settings because of what LLMs made possible, and pushed it into, when everybody in high-resource settings using AI for mental health, we took it to rural villages. And how do you reimagine that for the last 3 years? Because that was the aim eventually if you're solving for it. And lots of learnings from that process. But more importantly, I think one thing I learned was how to be resilient myself. So this session is partly about you as a founder and partly about how you can use AI to scale your business. This is an example of how we've scaled. So this is the country of Singapore adopting us. This is still at the high resource setting where they have a platform called Mindline through which they provide mental health support to all of their citizens or all of the residents. And Wysa powers that platform. So we have an AI chatbot that powers that platform. We are able to tell them what's working, what's not. We're able to give them analytics. We've publish so many papers with them together to really say, what is it that drives negative thoughts in Singaporeans? What is it that works to make them reframe those thoughts? The mechanisms of actions, not just how many people used it, which I somehow need to do to believe that something is changing. And changing how people think really, counters that demon in my head. But then when we came into low resource setting, just yesterday, we announced that we got a multi-million-dollar grant from Wellcome Trust. To scale up our work. 3 years of, working with adolescent girls, still in a preventative setting. How do you scale that? We still designed for scale. So now this girl doesn't have a phone. So we sat and said, we're an AI company, how do you get this to the girl who doesn't have a phone? So we created these workbooks with QR codes, but then how will she actually start? And we put them in schools because that's the one thing that gives her agency, but we designed them such that she thinks that they're her friend. And it's the one thing, our main metric that we put internally, it should be that one thing that she carries with her when she gets married. So this one book should be something that she can then carry, and that QR code can start a chat with her, for her at any point of time in all the areas that we're teaching her to manage her own mental health. But that's not enough, because what happens when she actually has depression and when she has anxiety? So the new grant is to actually enable the care pathway that happens not just in a preventative way, but when somebody's actually struggling, and create RCTs and evidence and all of the other things that it takes to scale. Again, we go back to zero, we go into the ground, and we figure out how is that care pathway, how is the frontline worker going to work with this girl who's struggling, what will work in the community, and we redesign around the AI yet again. So that's sort of how I have done Wysa. And the third is safety planning. So a lot of AI technology, if you say you're suicidal, will actually send you to a helpline. We know from our data that only 15% of the people will even click on that link. Very few people will get help. And often people will say these statements 10 times a day. And therefore, safety planning, far more important than escalation. But those are the kind of things that then you want to reach as many people as possible. Make sure they have these three. And of course, if this is not appropriate for them, then escalate to the right path. I'm going to move on next to this. The first part of it is to build your confidence in using AI in ways that maybe you're not using AI. What if you could now look at huge amounts of qualitative data in a very different way than you ever did? And what if you could bridge the qualitative and the quantitative using this? So what you otherwise could never have had 100,000 frontline workers sending you narratives every day. And you would never be able to engage with that or respond to that or analyze it, because who's going to do the thematic coding of all of this? Now you can. And how many interviewers? No interviewer needed. AI as an interviewer. Prompt writing. AI writing your prompts for you. This is one of the most powerful use cases. And finally, workflow automation. What I mean when I say workflow automation, and we use this when, for instance, we had behavioral health care workers who have to, on the one side, work on our system and then take all of that data and update the doctor's EHR. So we wrote an AI that just automates it. They press a button, all of that data gets captured, it logs out of our system, it logs into the other system, it updates that system, and still preserves the data accuracy. My objective here is to increase your confidence to achieve your goals. Now, what we want is that not just me, but AI acts as your self-efficacy coach. We're going to see how it can help your work scale. And there, it's not really about the AI. It's about your capacity to imagine, your commitment to design, your capacity to imagine. Those are the only two things that are stopping you from doing magical things today. AI will code for you, AI will build for you, AI will not imagine it, and AI will not be able to design for you. So, the core design principles that we built Wysa on, but that are even more important today, are for those of you who are not directly in touch with your users. Either you're going with tech to your user, or you can go with tech to the frontline worker. And if you're using monitoring and evaluation, you're using some tech. First version of Wysa, we even tested the therapeutic relationship our AI built with the user, and it was at par with a human being at 1/5 the time it took a human being, a human therapist, to build that therapeutic relationship. On the working alliance inventory, it was in 1 week, we built the same level as an online therapist. When we built this book, how does a book build a relationship? But you iterate until it does. The girls, when they saw the love that had been poured into designing the book and meeting them where they were, they would describe it as having another person in their life. Good design does that. It builds a relationship. And it builds a relationship because it increases their self-efficacy and it makes them feel heard. That is what we're trying to capture in anything that you want to scale. I want you to understand one core concept of attention in the AI age. Attention, or we get 11 million bits per second of sensory information into our brain. That is like a river. That's as big as a river. Maybe one glass full is what our brain can process in conscious awareness. And every single startup in the world who's trying to get your attention, everybody who's on your phone is trying to get your attention, Netflix, YouTube. People are trying to get into your sensory input and then prioritize the glass, right? Now, unfortunately, when you're scaling your program, you're competing with all of them. So when we launched Wysa, we were competing with Netflix. When people are depressed, they go to Netflix. They don't go to Wysa. How do you compete with something that is so designed to attract your attention and keep it? You have to build that relationship. You have to increase their self-efficacy, and you have to listen to them. There are also workarounds that some of the frontline workers have figured out. Some have figured out how to manage their trauma. Some have figured out how to manage that face that is being pulled. We don't capture that as well. So we don't capture all of the knowledge that is being generated, all of the micro innovations that are happening at the front line by the users who are using your product in ways that you never imagined it would be used, not being captured. The fact that it doesn't get captured, it doesn't make it to your indicators. How does that affect their confidence? How does that affect their relationship with you, with your solution? Those are all things that if you could use AI, it's not the only way to do it. Tech can definitely help. Communities can help. But if you could use AI, we have to retain our commitment to design, and we have to capture AI. We are going through cost reduction in Wysa right now. Now my product managers are building tech themselves. My tech teams, which are the most expensive parts of it, we are asking the seniors to empower the junior people, and then you can have a lot of bright people who understand how to do this with one or two tech people. I don't really think it's about cost reduction. I think it's about redeploying those costs. For instance, don't hire a really junior person who can't do design thinking and doesn't have an imagination and cannot be a manager to at least 5 people. AI is going to do most of the work, and these people are going to manage that. So you need somebody with the emotional intelligence, with the ability to build relationships, the ability to see, and the values commitment to design thinking, because they're going to give the prompts that AI is going to execute. Everybody else is just going to phone it in, and you'll spend your time trying to, check whether AI did this or they did this. Not the cheapest resources, but fewer of them. And really where a lot of your resources time is going into managing other people who are not competent and bridging the gap, or really bright resources who don't talk like they went to Harvard, and never get surfaced, not as expensive. With AI, you get to see how much quality they have, because it was getting buried under the language barriers and them not being able to present how good their ideas were. So both of those are great levers for me. The second, I'm only picking one thing to change at a system level. My mission is, of course, to create access. But what do I change in science? My mission, and I've only just come to it a year ago, and 3 months ago I've decided to commit to it, which is I want safety planning to be a part of every AI, not just escalation to crisis helplines, because it's just phoning it in. Go to a crisis helpline, not my problem, I'm covered legally. Doesn't matter if it doesn't help you. Whereas safety planning, over 60% of the people given safety planning actually do it, and it is shown to reduce the chances of suicide by 50%. So why not just get people to say, who can you be with right now? And what is something that you would do next time you have this thought? And then store it in memory and play it back to them and help them. And it will require a lot to change that, because people want to protect themselves. But it's a commitment to making sure we actually help the person who needs to be helped. My biggest worry about AI, and I'm writing a book about this, is this 11 million 40, I talked about this, one glass of awareness. The metacognition, which is what defines us as human beings, is having a hand on that glass. Even an animal has 40 bits in some part of the river of sensory information, and it's prioritizing, its algo is prioritizing what 40 bits will keep me alive, what 40 bits will make me survive, thrive. But human beings have a hand on that algo and can lift it out of the water and put it somewhere else. We haven't used it for a long time, because social media has got really good at giving us whatever the algo needs. So algo's getting fed, dopamine shifts, threat, rage baiting, algo's getting fed. You have not put your hand on the algo except to do 10 minutes of meditation a day. Not every moment. The biggest threat is that AI gets stronger and stronger. Our grasp on our own mind and the ability to choose what we think reduces. And we are floating in this river of really strong AI determining what the menu is that you're choosing from. Should I go to Netflix, or should I go to Amazon, or should I go to, something else, or Instagram? And you're oscillating between them and not being able to just be, not being able to tolerate distress. If we lose that, we lose free will. And I don't know if there's a bigger threat than that. The rest is all rage baiting, according to me. You regain control of your mind, you regain control of the world, because that is your reality. Those 40 bits are your reality. Your entire life is just little beads of 40 bits per second strung together. There is no other world that you're aware of. I once interviewed Jan LeCun, who is the chief scientist at Meta and one of the 3 fathers of AI. And he's very deep into that work, and he feels like true artificial general intelligence will only happen when AI is able to look at videos, but also the real world around it, and do what is called world building. So building a reality that is based on non-verbal signals, that is based on visual signals. Interestingly, there are 2 facets. So Geoffrey Hinton, who won the Nobel Prize for physics because of his work on AI, was actually a psychologist and a cognitive scientist, not a physicist. In his lab came out people like Sam Altman, and he ran the lab where these guys, all these billionaires who are making all of this, Jan LeCun, all of these guys came from the same lab. And Geoffrey Hinton thinks AI is super unethical, should not exist. Jan LeCun thinks that it needs to be world building, but we're nowhere near artificial general intelligence. And Sam Altman thinks it's around the corner. It's a matter of weeks. So I asked Jan LeCun, what's the difference between these opinions? And he was like, he's saying, it's hundreds of weeks. And yeah, if I calculate it, then it could be maybe 5 to 6 years. And to me, that's a long time. So they do still agree that 5 to 6 years, maybe 8 years, you would still have artificial general intelligence, which will have, in his mind, complete ability to do world making with video, audio, all non-verbal signals, etc. And Jeffrey Hinton agrees that that is the case, but thinks that's a very bad idea. I'm talking about interpreting visual context. So video is one way of looking at it, but if I'm in a room and I go around here, I'm getting 40,000 bits from the visual context. Which 40 to prioritize, my algo is good at doing from a human context. When will AI be able to use that same algo, right? To say, I look around the room, what should I prioritize? To be able to surface to tell you. And that's something that they all think will happen in the next few years. One of the key automations that people tend to use today, I'm very worried about this automation. I'm not happy about it at all. But what people tend to do is they'll have something that in their field tracks all the trending keywords and then create content, long-form content, short-form content, videos, etc. AI generates it against those keywords that are trending today and then posts it with those tags, which means those keywords trend even more. But now you are SEO, your search engine optimized. The question is that when people stop using search engines and start asking AI, what should I use for this? How will your program feature? That is something that people are saying the more long-form content you have, the more you have credibility, maybe in research publications, maybe, Now, general purpose AI's algorithm, Gemini's algorithm, is driven by what is the question? Like Wikipedia will obviously get a lot of weight in both general purpose AI and SEO. But will the kind of things like you're just publishing a lot of stuff, will that work for general purpose AI? Will it not? I think in the short term, it probably will. In the long term, there'll probably be an industry that's tracking it, same as SEO. The same players will just figure out something else to sell to you. It's an engagement economy. I would say that if you can build a relationship with your users, you can make them feel heard, and that deep scale, at least on a product market fit design, then you start getting a lot of user-generated content. That's what happened to us. We did zero marketing for Wysa till date. We have not spent $1 in B2C marketing. It's all user-generated content and then research studies that come to us because you've built that relationship. Okay, time is up. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you. It's been a great group.